So we all know my opinions on kids.
Yeah.
So me and Tom ended up having like a big debate last night about what they'd look like and what would be better. And he had came to the conclusion.
Gee, what would be better? Like you have a choice?
Yeah.
Right.
So he came to the conclusion that he thought he would prefer if they were not good looking because then they would have a personality. I was like, oh yes, that age old, that known thing in the world.
Oh,
I was like, what? He's like, I wouldn't want them to be too good looking. I was like, well, Tom, have a look at us. Like, no fucking fear there. Like, so.
Excuse me, has Tom not met me? Hello, and you're very welcome along to the Unpopular Opinion podcast. My name is Jen.
I'm Karla.
And this week we are joined by Karla's sister, Aimee, for a lovely, light-hearted conversation on something that's a bit of a trigger warning just to start us off. It's about fertility. And it's not that you'll see as we go in, but there is fertility involved in it. It's not a struggle.
Yeah, it's
with fertility, it's more of a...
It's like trying to have a baby.
It's like trying to have a baby. But from a different perspective in that it's future-proofing rather than, like... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of podcasts or people that speak about this, it's because they're struggling with fertility or it's too late by the time this comes around.
Yeah.
Do you know?
So, Aimee...
Hi.
Do you want to tell people just a little bit of a background about you?
Yeah. So I suppose I've always liked kids and always wanted kids. So it's definitely something that's always been on my mind. I'm 34, nearly 35.
This year?
Yeah. No
Excuse
or a geriatric, as they keep calling me.
Are you 35 this year?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, you're both 87. I'm 32.
Yeah.
You've just offended half of our listeners.
No, but as in, it's just like I've grown up with her. It's very,
yeah.
like I remember when you went
30, 21.
I remember when you went 21, that was the first, and I was like, she's so
an
fucking
adult.
old. She is
Yeah.
so old, man. And then I remember when you went 30 and being like, not me.
Yeah.
No. And
I
then
remember my 30th thinking, I don't know, thinking I was old, and now I'm like looking at people doing their 30th feeling like they're
They're still babies.
babies.
Yeah.
because when I had my 30th, you were like, this is mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's mad. Yeah. So I'm an OAP / geriatric.
What age is it that they start calling
35.
Is it 35?
35. They lowered it. It used to be 37 and it's now 35.
Fuck off.
I got told when I was 26 and I was doing eyebrows at the time for a woman who told me that I was basically over the hill and that I'd want to find a husband fast and have kids because I was now a geriatric at that age. So I've kind of been thinking of it since then.
Oh my God.
Really?
Well, no, I haven't been thinking about it, but you know, that word
It's been in your head
around.
since then.
That geriatric has really
Yeah,
hit you.
26, but I suppose it just shows age. You kind of think you're old when you're 18, when you're 20.
Whatever age you are.
Yeah, one of the girls I know got an application. Somebody signed her up for, it said, fill in your application here for Love Island. And I was like, oh my God. But then she's 22. So that's what they all are. And then it kind of reminded me, like 22, she's an adult. She's got a good job. She drives her car, whatever. I'm like, what, 13 years older than her. Definitely an old person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, I remember mortally offending when we lived in LA. We bumped into, very strange. So we basically met this guy. We were trying to find our apartment. We couldn't find our apartment. And this guy had watched us walk up and down the street like 3 or 4 times and he was going to get a coffee. So he approached us and he was so good looking. And we were like, oh, is this how LA's going to be? Is this it?
Did I just get discovered by
I was like, oh my God, this absolute hottie. So he was like, why don't you come and use my Wi-Fi? Because we didn't have, back then it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't free roam. And I tell you that, girls, still isn't in America.
There was no 4G there.
There was definitely not. So we went to, he brought us, this sounds so much creepier than it is, but we went to his hotel lobby and he was like, you guys can like chill here, just use the Wi-Fi. I'm just going to go and like let my dog out, whatever else, and come back down, make sure you're all right. So we were like, oh, this is so Cool. No, turned out he was a creep in the end.
When is he going to become a creep?
And I remember mortally offending him. He was 33.
Yeah.
And I was 21. So to me, he was
He was a good 12 years old. He was a good teenager older than you.
But like, he was really hot, and we were like, oh my God. And it turned out he was an actor, of course. And he'd been like in a ton of ads over there, like, which makes sense considering where we were living in the apartment. Like, this was like a gorge apartment block. We were like, wow, we could never afford this. But yeah, no, it did turn out that he was a creep, and he hung out with us that summer. And now looking back, I'm like, why was there a 33-year-old? And then he actually tried to hit on my friend. It was very strange. But we were there, we were smoking joints one night, and because over there weed was like, weed's like their thing. And I was like, I'm not like 30 or something like that. And I'll never forget the look that he gave me. He looked me dead square in the eyes. But you have to remember, 21, I was like, that is 9 years time.
But I don't mind being old,
You're not old. That's the fucking thing. Like,
no, you're not old at all.
But to be fair, now that you are, what, 42? When you think about,
I'm 31. I'm 31. I'm not 32 till June.
But when you think about a 20-year-old, you're like, oh my God, you're a fucking baby.
Yeah, whenever like
the
I'm
opposite now.
When they're like, I'm like, she's only 24.
Yeah.
When I go through things, and then I'm like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then when I look back at my life, I'm like, how the fuck was I doing that at 25, or how the fuck was that happening at whatever age?
How was I walking around?
How was I being a person?
Yeah. How was I driving a car?
Who
let me drive a car when I was 22?
I was 26 when I worked for Smashbox, when I was a trainer, when I was traveling all of the time on my own, staying in hotels fucking all over the UK and Ireland, like doing all. And now I'm like, you couldn't do that at 25.
It's very young.
26.
Yeah.
You're a little baby.
But that's the thing, and especially in your situation, I think stuff like that is moving on, especially in the year, like, a lot of people are saying, like, remember 40 used to be like the start of your life. It's getting fucking older now.
Yeah.
Do you know, and it's like 50 days. These are the best years of your life. Do you know, like, it is kind of all pushing on, and I think society as a whole is kind of a bit more accepting of, because it used to be like, you need to have your college done by the time you're 21. You need to be married and have 2 kids and a car and a mortgage by the time you're 28. And then by 35, you need to have the 3rd kid, and you need to have the 2nd mortgage, and you need to upgrade the house and all this sort of shit. But whereas now, and not that we fucking can, thanks Ireland and the government and the fucking housing crisis and all that, but I don't think that's expected as much anymore until a much later age.
No.
Which is great.
Yeah, and I think as well, I suppose for me, the reason as well is because I had total topic change here, but I have had fibroids, which are like in your womb, and I had to get them removed twice. So it was always one thing when you go in for the operations, they say to you, if something goes wrong, there is a chance that it tears the lining of your womb, which means that you can't have kids, or your uterus.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
One or the other, or they're both the same. So it was always, I think that was, what age was I when I got that done? I think the first operation, was around 26, 27 for that. And then the second operation was pretty, about 28. So it's always been on my mind. Like, I remember kind of not having to make the decision. It sounds so dramatic, but I remember that was a big decision. You kind of had to say to them, okay, go for it. But if this happens, it's not your fault. So as much as, like, they're so experienced, and it didn't happen, touch wood, thank God, and it probably wouldn't happen to loads of people, but you could be that one person it does happen to. So I kind of knew even then that kids was something that was a decision for me, whereas other people might have been like, oh, well, I'm not thinking of having kids now, so it doesn't matter. But to me, I remember ringing my dad saying that was one thing that was kind of not holding me back, but anyway, that was on my mind since then, so.
So you've always kind of thought about kids from a young age, like.
Yeah, and then I suppose maybe being told that something like that's happening could affect having kids at that age. It's kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, so then, but then I was lucky the fibroids got removed. They put in the coil then, which I had for 5 years, to prevent the fibroids growing back, which it did its job, but then the gynecologist said I wouldn't put a second coil in for somebody of your age. So what age was I then? About 32?
32, yeah, I think. Yeah.
And then I was on the pill for over a year then. Yeah. And I was lucky because that was keeping them at bay. So the whole thing is, I think that hormone, whatever's in it, like progesterone in the coil, and I think that there was estrogen in the pill anyway, but whatever it was, keeps the hormone at bay, so it stops the fibroids growing back. But if I was to have a fibroid again like that, it would have to be removed before you have kids. So like the whole idea was to try keep them away. But the pill then was driving my blood pressure through the roof, like it was really high. And it was kind of dangerous. They were like, no, we have to take you off it. So I was lucky enough they took me off the pill then last summer. So so then it was in my head to do it, but I had a conversation with my friend's mum last October, and she had said to us both, like, you're both 34 now, you need to do this by the time you're 35 or within your 35th year.
And what is this? Because we haven't actually addressed what you're doing. No, we were going to move on to an next book. For it. Yeah.
I froze my eggs. I decided to freeze my eggs then. So the reason being as well is because I haven't met anyone, the one, yet or anything like that. And it is something, going back on all that I do want to have kids. So I did it for a few reasons. Like straight away people are like, oh great, so you're going to go have a kid on your own and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I hope not, that I hope not, but I still hope to meet somebody and everything like that. But I also have seen, like, on a different topic, loads of relationships that have broken up, like loads of friends who've been in long relationships and then got fucked over, or, you know, you hear all these crazy things, and it just leaves you vulnerable. If you want to have a kid and you've wasted time
with this person
who then fucks you over, you know, or if you have a child with somebody who's not the right person just because you want to have a child, I don't know. I in my personal opinion, it might be fairer to have a child, you know, like, okay, maybe not financially, it's not so accessible to just go and have a child on your own, but like, you know, I think, like, as well, some children suffer if the parents aren't right, you know, if they've only done it just because.
I think it was such a, like, not a long time coming, but I think since we were younger, it was always, you were mad about kids and I was always very not. But you weren't mad about me as a kid, which was interesting. But no, there was no paternal big sister instinct there. No, but you have always kind of, it was always in your plan. And I think I think a lot of single people who are actively looking for a relationship, you get that little bit like disheartened the older that you get, because you're just a bit kind of like, my options do unfortunately start to look like they're closing up. And that's more for women in
it's the body clock that your internal body clock.
But I did see a lecture, and it was a female lecturer, and I can't remember what it was. It was a real quick clip, but then me and Tom ended up having a good conversation about it, being like, we've been also sold this myth that men's sperm are perfect. She was like, my bollocks. How is your kidneys fucked? Your heart's fucked. Your blood's fucked. Like, all these different things are wrong with your body, but for some reason your sperm is perfect. It was like, no, the sperm is not at its same, like, it's not at the same quality. There you go. Yeah, that's what I was trying to find. Like, quality as it will be, like, at 100 as it will be at 30.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's a little bit of that in it as well. I think that obviously childbirth was such a risky business for so many years, and it's only really become safe in the past, 50, 60 years maybe. It was never a very safe thing to do.
No.
And it was the number one killer of women for a very long time. But I think for you, it was always in the back of your head.
Yeah, and like, I'm also quite independent. If I generally want to do something, I'll do it, and I can do it. And while I'd love to have a partner, it's definitely not the only thing on my mind. Like, I focus on different things and my career and stuff like that. And so that's why, as well, a lot of people would look at me and be like, oh, she's kind of older now and she's met nobody. Like, that's the be all and end all. I think that's where I'm at a little bit. My age, people look at me as in, oh Jesus, well, that's her done now. She doesn't have a husband, or, stuff like that. I don't know. It can be a bit like, But anyway,
I hate that mentality though. Like, it's like you're 35 and you don't have a fella, so you're a spinster. All of a sudden.
It's like it becomes a question. And then you might be looking at people going, but you were in a terrible relationship.
Yeah.
That somebody's
Yeah,
cheating
yeah.
on you the whole time, or you know what I mean. So anyway, that's like totally off the topic. None of the reasons why I've done it. I like that. Like I said, I am quite independent. I was like, right, gonna do this because then it's in my hands. If I decide to have a baby on my own next month or in 5 years, I can do that. If I meet somebody, it takes the pressure off. Because like that, when I do meet somebody, I want to be able to maybe go on holidays, do all these things, not just be rushing up the aisle because I'm getting old. You know, I take your point about the sperms as well and stuff, but I suppose it's more focused on the woman's getting older. What's the eggs going to be like? You do this test, AMH, I think it's called, and it's the number of, it's not the number of eggs, but it's like a number which gives you a rough idea of where you are with your eggs. So I had that done when I had the coil in, and the number was 18, which was quite low. So it was within the 30 percentile for my age group. And that was when I was it was in 2020.
Right. Yeah.
So what are we, 2022? So when I was 32, yeah. So that was low. Like that was kind of like, oh Jesus, that was kind of a bit of a
It gave you a fright.
Shock.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then I kind of always said I'd do it like I did. I got the coil out. But they never told me at the time it was because of the coil the number was so low.
Yeah, I was going to say with the
Yeah.
hormones.
Yeah.
And then my friend got a test, the same. Her number was quite low, but she had the coil in. So, but I went and got the test this time. So I was thinking it's going to have lowered. Like, and that's kind of half why I was doing it as well, because that number was so low. And when I got the test this time, so I suppose I better go into the process now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to say, why don't tell us about where you actually...
Yeah, so then I chose to go with ReproMed because I knew people who would use them. And it was just simple for me then. You know, my gynecologist in the Beacon had suggested that I use them, and she sent me a referral to them, but they never got in touch with me, actually, still to this day, and that was about 2 years ago. But I kind of thought maybe those people who were doing IVF and stuff who needed it more, that they prioritised after the pandemic. So I decided to go with ReproMed, and so you book in for your consult, and then it's €300, which gives you the doctor consult, and you get your bloods, which give you this AMH number. So then the doctor rings you for your consult. So again, I thought it's going to have lowered because 2 years ago, but it went up to 30.5, which was quite high. Yeah. So they were like, this is great.
So what's like...
I don't really know. I don't know enough. I know that 18's low
and 30's high.
So, so I don't really know, you know, 30's high. Like, yeah, she said it was around 70% versus 30%. So,
Wow.
yeah. So like, it's
Probably
not
goes
the
up in those
number.
increments then, like if you went from 18 to 30.
No, it's not like an age group. It's like,
No, as in
right.
it, like the increments. I'm trying to think if that went from 30% to 70%. Quick maths, fast maths.
It's like what the coil had taken away from you.
So I think
essentially.
the coil just suppresses whatever,
Yeah.
you know, was there. So so in saying that, I'd been off the coil, the coil had been out 18 months.
Yeah.
And I'd been off the pill about 6 months.
So you were completely clear.
Yeah. And my periods were really regular and quite light, which, going back to the fibroids, is kind of important because with the fibroids, your periods are heavy. So everything was exactly 28 days. So that made it good for planning all this for me, because I was lucky. But they're very accommodating. Like, you just tell them you're a few periods and stuff like that, and they help you. So the doctor goes through everything, the process, kind of a bit sciencey, like, and I really wasn't taking it all in, because really the end goal was to get the eggs out. So like, that's where I wouldn't obsess now about the details. I'd be like, this is their job.
Yeah.
This is a decision I've made. Trust the process and follow their guidance, as opposed to obsessing.
Knowing the numbers and the levels and the...
Yeah, and all
like,
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
you know?
Sure, look, I've no thyroid gland. I still don't fucking understand any of the levels. I just
Yeah, isn't
don't.
it
I just
mad?
let them do whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
you
if you
just-
asked me, what's your this, that and that, I don't even know what the names of them are. I'm like, what's this, that and that? I don't fucking know. I just go to me appointments.
Yeah.
They take me tablets. It's grand.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
Take me
like,
tablets, go to me
Yeah.
appointments, do me thing.
They did suggest... Oh, did they suggest the folic acid? No, maybe not. no, maybe that was.
I think
something
they
I
suggest
saw.
that if you're of childbearing
Yeah.
age,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
regardless.
So,
like.
so that was kind of it. I did bring up at that point that I didn't want the hormones to make me anxious, because that was a lot with the fibroids. There was, before the operation for the fibroids, you had to get this injection that made me really anxious and horrible symptoms and stuff like that. And then the coil, oh my God, was horrific the last few months. And then when it came out, it just wasn't nice feeling like anxious and stuff like that. The pill was grand, but I felt really flat. It's funny when you come off all this shit that then you're like, oh my God, you know.
As a human being.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I said, and she kind of suggested taking some melatonin around the times, because I did say that PMS wise, like which I'm really lucky, would be like clockwork every 28 days, know exactly when I'm ovulating, know when my period's on its way, and my mood would dramatically drop the few days before. My sleep would go to shit and stuff like that. So that was one suggestion she gave. So then that was it, did the blood test, and then you kind of had to decide if you wanted to go ahead with it. So I kind of felt that was kind of fast, and they kept putting pressure on me. Not pressure, because they were really nice through this whole thing, but they kept...
I feel like it did happen very fast,
Yeah,
though.
like they
I
were
feel like we
kinda
were
like-
talking about it, and then it was like, oh, by the way, this is happening. I was like, sorry?
Yeah, they were like, we're going to book you in for this and this. So basically, they booked you in for more bloods and something else. And I was like, and a scan. And then they want you kind of in the middle of your cycle. So they said that I had about 18 follicles or something. Oh, no. I think she said 18. No, sorry, 10 or something. I don't know, at some stage. So that was great, whatever. Maybe I didn't have 10. Maybe that was a later
What's
one.
follicles?
Sorry. That's where the eggs are in.
Okay, so can you have more eggs than follicles?
No,
So-
eggs are in the follicles, I think.
Okay.
You see again?
Weren't paying attention
No,
to the
wasn't
finer
paying attention
details.
to the science part. But anyway, so went for a scan. They said everything looked good. More bloods. And I was kind of like, I keep going back to this place for bloods. We live in Castleknock. It was in Dundrum. And like that was a bit of a pain, you
Yeah.
know, and you're trying to work it around. But I was lucky, like they did have early appointments and stuff like that. And
Working around like your work hours.
my
and
work,
stuff.
yeah, to kind of get over.
I used to do sunbeds over there. It was a bitch as well.
Sunbeds all the way into Drum.
They used to have a tannery in Dundrum where they didn't have one. Now they have one in Cabra, Mulhudder and Finglas, but it was only in Dundrum.
You
the
were-
last
you were
time.
stung with
I had the good one,
Oh.
the good beds.
The good beds.
This is years ago.
Oh.
back in the day.
Yeah.
Um,
But it is, I agree, it's a bitch to get to.
Yeah, so you're kind of trying to plan that in. And then the park in the first day, I was like, oh my God. The parking was like past the clinic, and then the clinic, I was running around the place. But they were really nice. They were like, this happens to everyone. So,
Oh, okay.
you know, so that's all fine. So I went for a couple of bloods, and then I was like, hang on a second. I'd spent about €600 at this stage, maybe more. I think it was about 600 on bloods and a scan and the doctor talking to me, and I was like, what is going on? Like, does this come off the money at the end?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
then, and they were like, no, so if you want to go ahead and we'll book you in, and you know the doctor needs to know and we need to plan this. And I was like, what have I paid for? What have I done? Like antiviral bloods, different things like that. So then anyway, they were kind of saying, you know, do you want to go ahead with it? And I was kind of like, yeah, okay. So then I had another consultation. I always knew I was going to go ahead with it, but I was kind of like, what is going on here? And this is ridiculous, like bloods and things, but obviously not. And then anyway, basically, yeah, decided to go ahead with it. And then you pay for it. And then they were like, okay, so we're going to bring you on this day for a scan. And I was like, another scan? Okay. And then they were like, great, so we'll start your injections on the 31st, which was January. And I was like, what? And then I was like, and when will we get the eggs out? They were like, either the 11th or the 14th. I was like, what? So I kind of thought
It would be
like,
a longer process.
it was long in a way that maybe it'd been on my mind for ages. Plus October to December felt like ages back and forth at M50 going for the scans and bloods and whatever, even though it was only like 4 or 5 times. But, you know, that felt like ages. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, you'll be injecting next week. I was like, mother of God, like this is so fast, you know? So yeah, that was it then. So they were very good like that. Went over for the last scan. Again, the night before the last scan, which was the day before you'd start injecting, I only watched the videos then. You had to complete like an online module.
Oh, shit.
But it was so funny, like the videos, they're like, and then the egg and blah. And I was like, what the fuck? This is, I don't know. again, I was only kind of half paying attention, but like the video is like the egg looks like a floating, like, I don't know, it was
Tadpole or something.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. So
I know I know people are going to say that's sperm, Jen, but like it does look like the head off
yes,
a tadpole, like
yeah,
the circular part.
Yeah, and then it was like, and then it will do this, and then it was talking about this. Your kidneys can like build up fluid and stuff like that, and I was like, I bet you I'll be that person. So that was kind of on my mind. I was like, oh dear. So anyway, went in, had my last scan. She was lovely. Get your injections, and then started to inject. I was a little bit anxious about that because it was like, okay, it's in your portal. You have a portal which they do their messages on, and there was a video on the portal. So I was kind of anxious that day. I remember being like, oh my God, didn't know what the needles were going to look like, everything like that. But it's really well explained, the videos. And then I started to inject. So the injections are kind of preset out. They show you how to mix them and whatever. And you do your first injection in the evenings. So that injection that you take in the evening stays with you right till the end. So you do that injection. So then that was Tuesday evening maybe. And on the Friday, I introduced another one, which was in the morning. Now that one made me really tired. Like you had to take it by 10:30 and I was exhausted after I'd take it and felt a little bit sicky with that one. But again, so then you crack on with that. So that was Friday till the next. So then you go for a scan. So on the Monday I went for a scan. So I'd be taking the injections for a week now. I think it was like day 7. And she said, okay, it's looking good. We've about 7 follicles. And I was like, 7? What the fuck? This is crap. Like thinking,
This is crap.
but I was kind of like, and I didn't feel much different. Didn't feel anxious, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Didn't really feel bloated, which was grand. Had 7 follicles. So it's like a graph. So she said, well, here you were on the first day. So it's like 3 little dots at the bottom. And then there's like floaters up to the middle and the middle line. And then anything over the middle, they consider like
Extractable.
yeah, kind of thing.
Okay.
So there was about 7 of them, but there was loads of lads under the line. So I was like, okay. So then they brought me back in on Wednesday and the 7 had changed to 13. And I was like, wow, 13 now we're
fucking
Now we're
cracking on.
I was
choking
like,
diesel.
yes. So that was fine. That was Wednesday. It was starting to feel sore on Wednesday. Like my tummy was sore. I just felt like shit now at that stage.
So these injections, they're kind of like IVF injections,
Yeah,
in
they
that
are.
they send your production of eggs into
Yes.
overdrive
So
kind of thing.
it's, I think it's the same,
Yeah,
exact same process, except at the end my eggs go into a freezer versus going into
an embryo.
With
Or like getting mixed up. Yeah.
So so then I was feeling pretty crap then by the Wednesday, like, and Thursday, Friday were 2 torturous days. And Wednesday, so I thought this is great. So she said, we'll probably do the retrieval on Friday. Then did they get me to come back on Thursday? No, they rang me that evening and said, they take bloods. Every time they do a scan, they take bloods. So they rang me and she said, look, I'm really sorry. We thought we'd take you in on Friday, but we're actually going to take you back for a scan on Friday because they want to wait until Monday now to do it. So I was like, oh my God. So for me, for work, I was lucky my boss was really sound and basically said, block out your calendar and then update it. Like, you know, if you're in on Friday, work on Friday and whatever, you know. So so I got the scan on Friday morning and Friday morning I had 24 follicles.
Wow.
So it had just, that's I think why I felt so shit Thursday, Friday.
It's like
'cause
after quadrupling kind
Yeah.
of making
like, and I was quite uncomfortable. And I kind of thought, I felt like I had bits of symptoms like of a kidney infection. I was kind of like, and then I was kind of starting to be paranoid about that kidney thing I read that you can get kind of like too much fluid and stuff. So then on Friday there was 24 and they rang me Friday evening and said, we're going to do the extraction on Monday, but you need to be careful because we need you to take one more injection and then that's it because you're at the point of maybe overstimulation, which is too many. I don't know what happens then. I think it's more just symptoms of feeling sick and stuff.
Okay.
But she said I had kissing ovaries, which meant the ovaries were so full they were touching at the back.
Right.
So like they were totally touching, which is something kind of apparently you don't always have. So yeah, so that Saturday was fine, Sunday was bad, and I was really emotional. like
Okay.
at this stage, because I
You're
was just
pumping
felt
yourself
like,
with hormones.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
But I'd
the
gotten
thing.
away for the first 7 or 8 days, and I was like, I am Superwoman.
yeah.
But then it started to hit me. And then the kind of, not even the disappointment, but Wednesday I was kind of geared up for Friday. And then they said move to wait. And I knew that I had those extra few days. And I was like, oh, the injections, by the way, were totally fine. Tiny little needle, very easy to do. And I have a friend who has type 1 diabetes who injects every day. So she helped me with the first one. And like, I think it's the build up, and it would be easy for me to say that to both of you now. It's totally fine. You'd still go to do it and be like, oh, like it's totally fine. The injection that I started to take on the Friday, they said might give you a bit of a rash around the area. So you could see that, and it was a bit like itchy, and my belly was quite bruised then.
If I'm doing it so much.
Yeah, I just kept changing the location and everything like that. And I was a bit paranoid doing it. Am I doing this right? You know, especially not getting any symptoms for the first while, and then only 7 eggs. I was like, what the hell?
It would be amazing if they had, especially for women who go through IVF, and God love them, they go through it a lot. You know, like when they have failed cycles and stuff like that, and they're fucking superheroes that don't give up and they go through a lot of cycles. It'd be great if they had like a cannula system or like a port that you didn't have to keep going through this. Do you know what I mean?
It's not that, like, yes, totally agree, because
They have that for diabetics.
Okay, yeah.
They do
good
have them,
point.
like.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, no, I'm just thinking that the size in the needle is so small that like you really don't feel it. It's like a pinprick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of invasive in the way that your whole tummy is kind of bruised, and you're trying to pick a different spot, and you're doing it twice a day, and it's kind of like, what?
Oh God, I know.
So-
yeah, and then I suppose when you're talking IVF, it's kind of a process, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's where like I am very sensitive to the fact that a lot of people have to do it, and I'm lucky that I had the 24 eggs, and I'm not like.
Well, I think what we should kind of say, especially to, and this is just purely for educational reasons, because who was it that you told, and or you, Karla, told one of our mates the other day that Aimee had done it, and that's why she wasn't at the show or whatever, and she was like, what, can you do that? Didn't know that. So
A lot of people think like the minute that you say, oh, I'm freezing my eggs, they think IVF.
there's a problem.
And they think that there's, number one, they think that there's a problem, or number two, they think that there's like a baby at the end of the cycle.
Yeah.
And that's a very kind of common misconception, where I'm like, I feel like now the tables have turned a little bit, where people want insurance policies, and especially for things like kids. And when we sat down, we talked about cost. We'll talk about cost now in a bit, but like my biggest thing is you pay whatever for a holiday. You pay fucking all the money in your bank account for a kid, if that's what you wanted.
Yeah, especially when it gets to that stage,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you know, because I do know, I suppose I'll just finish because we're nearly at the end
Of your
of my story.
Well, I was
of
just
the
going to say
needles.
there, as you were saying, like it's not because you were saying like you had the 24, and it's not that you have a problem ovulating or getting any
Yeah,
of
oh
this.
no,
That
as
we
well.
should kind of point out that it is doing it this way is a privilege, and it's
Exactly.
Like we're not
And that's what I was going to say. Like when I had the 7 eggs, I was just shocked because I was like,
I'm a healthy, yeah.
And not-
there's
and
no
as well-
known problems.
I didn't do enough. Like I wasn't doing the research to know that, you know, I don't know what I thought. I actually don't know what I thought. So because they told me at the end I should get between 10 to 14 eggs. On day 1, she told me, that she thought I'd get between 10 to 14 eggs. So I kind of thought the 7 were the 7. I didn't know that
You
were
could
gonna
get more. Okay, yeah. Okay, I got you.
So, so then the weekend came. So I then, by Friday, she gave me a call, and I remember just being like, and the nurse, and she's like, we're going to do it Monday. We're going to put these details in your portal to read. But again, I was like, yeah, okay, put them in, I'll read them. I thought I injected this trigger injection the night before, and it was 9:30 on the Saturday night, and I got some email, and I was looking at my phone, and I just opened it, and it was saying, our portal is down, we just want to check you took your trigger injection. I was like, what?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, and I was like, shit. And thank God I wrote back straight away, and she wrote back, and it was 9:30, and she said, okay, like I said, I'll take it now, like I've taken it now at 9:35, or I said, will I take it now, like I've only taken it now, not at 7:30. She said, take it now and we'll be in touch with you, because we might need to reschedule your appointment.
Oh,
So it's quite time sensitive.
Yeah.
So then I Googled and it was like 36 hours. So then I was thinking 36 hours was 3 days. I was like, they have got this totally wrong. And now I'm still going to be here. I'm going to have to tell work it's going to be
a day and a
Tuesday or
half.
Wednesday. But in my head, 36 hours
It's
is
because
3
you
days.
say 3. It's you said 3. Yeah.
At that stage, I was like, ugh. So then Sunday morning, they rang me and said, look, we're going to change. What time did you take it? I said 9:35 Saturday night. And she said, right, okay, we're going to change your appointment. We want you to come in at 9 because I was coming in at 7.
Yeah, okay.
And be prepared and whatever. And I was like, okay. And have they worked this out correctly? She was like, yes, they have. And I was like,
Yes, thank you, woman who has never done this before. Thank you for questioning my job and everything that I do.
I was like, I'll have to just leave it in their hands then. I was thinking they're rushing me in with 36 hours. And it was literally probably like, as I was being sedated, I was like, oh, 36 hours, yes. Makes sense now. But like, anyway, so then I went in, got there, and I was kind of nervous. I was like, oh, Jesus. So my dad brought me over, and then my mum wanted to come over, wanted to come in, wanted to come into the room.
Come into the room,
She wanted
hold
to
your
take the
hand,
eggs out.
take photos, and then just be ever present.
She wanted to be there, which was great, but
it's lovely how supportive. I mean, we know Ray,
yeah,
but it's lovely how supportive they are. Like, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
I feel like I'd be just left to do my own thing if I did that.
Oh no, Dee wouldn't. No, she wouldn't.
she
We keep her
wanted
out
to
of
be
things
involved.
sometimes because she wants to.
Oh, you've said that before. Yeah, go on, Dee.
She bustled through. She somehow made it to the patient area when I was getting my stuff done.
Oh fuck yeah!
So
no, she's great
She's
in that
eager.
way. She wanted to be there, whatever, but you couldn't. So then I was and I remember being like, I wish somebody was here with me. There was only one morning I felt kind of lonely. And I kind of had a little cry about it because I was like, this is quite a lonely process as well. So you see people going in with their partners. There's a lot of people there with their partners. And I was kind of like, oh my God. I did feel quite alone. Like I was kind of like, right, okay, I'm doing this. I know why I'm doing it. And it's never something that stops me in my tracks ever, being lonely or being single or anything like that. But I did feel really alone. Maybe it was the hormone. I was like, this is a very lonely process. But anyway, so then I got in there and they brought me upstairs and I was like a goldfish in a bowl or something. I was like staring at the nurse. I was kind of like, does she know what she's doing? We were going upstairs. Like I was like, and she was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, totally fine. And then she actually put her arm on me. She was like, this is totally fine. I was like, oh, thank God. I don't know. At that, again, I didn't think about it overly until I literally was chatting to Ray in the car. And then I was like, oh, it's 1 minute to 9. I have to go now. And then I was walking up the stairs. I was like, I'm on the way to get my eggs frozen. Or, you know, like, what the hell? So then they brought you up. You got into the bed. They do the usual blood test, fill in a form.
Another fucking blood test.
Yeah, fill in the form, blood pressure. And she just kind of said, right, we're going to bring you to and I was kind of like, at this stage, my kidneys felt like I definitely had a kidney infection. I was like, I need to go to the loo. And then she was like, we'll go on the way to the theatre or whatever. So that was fine. Came in and then they just do a check of you are who you are. So she said, we're going to give you sedation. And I think it's morphine in with the sedation. So I had gotten
a treat of a Monday.
A treat on a little Monday. Ooh.
So I got
Say yes.
I got the scope before, and the sedation didn't really work really well. So I just kept telling them it doesn't work very well for me, the sedation. So and she said, well, that's great to know. Thank you. You know, we'll give you
Ramp
more.
it up, baby.
I'm sure she was like, we won't give you any more, but we'll pretend we will. And I was like, well, that's great. So that was fine. Was waiting there. And then there was another nurse and she was really nice. And then she gave me the injection and I was like, I don't feel anything in my head. And then the next thing it was like, boom, like the weirdest feeling across my arms, up across my back, down my other arm. And she literally was like, do you feel that? And I was like, yes. And then that was it. I remember after when the nurse, so then I remember waking up back in the first room and my mum was standing there. I was like,
how the fuck did you get here?
I do remember they said, you know, we're going to ring, you know, whatever, your mum, or they wanted me to ring my mum. And I remember she was saying she was parking, but I don't remember any of that. This was after. I remember waking up and I was like, hello. Like,
You're here.
There you are. And that was fine. But then the nurse walked in. I was like, was I talking to you in the middle of it? She was like chatting away. And I don't remember that. I do remember at one stage them saying, now that's very sore. Could you just stop that now to the woman? So she came in anyway, the nurse, and said, it's great. We got 12. And I was like, 12? So I was like 24 to 12. I was like, this is mad. But actually, you know your one Heather Ray Young?
Yeah.
From
Selling
Sunset. She put up an Instagram video a few days before I had gotten it done and was like, I'm just here after my procedure. And she was sweating and I was like, what the hell? And she was like, and we got 50% of the eggs and blah, blah, blah. So then I was kind of like, okay, is 50% the
Me and Heather are the same.
Me and Heather. So, yeah, so apparently, so anyway, they got 12 eggs out of the 24 follicles.
Okay.
And then they let you know at another stage how many were good enough to be frozen.
Viable.
So so then that was it. So kind of got organised, went home. Didn't feel great now at all. At all. My ear was like, I thought I took a reaction to the sedation. Like Karla and my mum were talking and I was like, you both need to stop now because it was like really painful. And I was like, oh my God, my kidneys felt terrible. So that was fine. The next day I just felt pretty shit. Felt pretty shit for the next day, was in bed like most of the day. And then the hospital rang, or the clinic rang. They said, that's not normal, so go to the GP. And it turned out I had an ear infection and a kidney infection. So I had to go on antibiotics then. And then I felt grand. But anyway, it came back. So there was 5 eggs to be frozen. So I was delighted that 5 eggs were frozen. Mm-hmm. But like, it just shows you 24 to 12 to 5. Like, you know, and that as well put into perspective for me, like, you know, it is hard. And that's as well, like, I know a lot of people who, like 2 of my best friends, both have 2 gorgeous, healthy kids, and one is expecting again. And, but then I also know people who struggled, you know, and I know loads of people with babies, and a lot of them have had miscarriages and stuff like that. So, so I think like that's another thing. And I know like a lot of people whose friends and stuff like that who are on journeys of IVF, and I know people who've had IVF and stuff like that. So, I know that that's a good number, you know.
Yeah.
I think like, which is great. But when I came out and they told me I had 12, there was another woman. Now you can't see anybody. You're all in your own sections. She only got 2. And it just was like scary that, you know.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of that.
Wow.
So that's it. They're on ice now.
They're on ice.
They're on ice.
I suppose, what is, we'll talk about cost. I know everybody's going to, because I remember we discussed it at length, because I was also looking into freezing embryos, and we were kind of going back and forth. And it was funny because one of my friends, we hadn't seen each other in a bit, and we were having a conversation. She was like, Jesus, that's going to cost you a serious amount. And I was like, everybody goes immediately to IVF and the prices of IVF. Versus the prices of egg freezing and embryo freezing, which are 2 different things altogether. Mm-hmm. So price.
So they say it's about 3,000. But then you've got I think it was about 600 before that. Mm-hmm. And then you have it was actually 3,150. So when I was paying it, I was like, this isn't 3. You know, so I was thinking, where is this 3? So I think it was about 3,750.
Wow, okay.
It was 3,750 because it was 600, then 3,150, not 3. So, but you can get 1,000 back if you have your healthcare, which I do. So you can get 1,000 back.
Okay.
So yeah. So that's what it is. And then it's 300 a year to freeze. So your first year.
I was going to say, is there rent on the fridge?
Yes. Your fridge is 300 a year. Your first year is included.
Okay.
Oh, discount.
Yes. Oh. So
cheeky little discount.
Oh,
so next Feb 14th.
Oh, that's a good look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my little baby Valentine's. So next year I'll pay 300. So it's 300 a year. And then you do sign something to say any eggs. So I presume the 7 of the 12, you can sign something to say they can use them for research as to why they aren't good? So I said, yeah, because I do believe definitely in research, you know. And then
I believe in research.
but then you also can sign to say if you die, can your eggs be used for research? So I said yeah too.
Okay.
Because again, I believe in research.
Yeah.
Very good. I was gonna say, so these are the eggs the 5 that were good. So they're yours. You can't like sign them off to somebody. Like they can't.
No, but like when there was the 24, my friend kept saying, you should be selling those eggs.
I was gonna say you could donate them. There's a lot you can do once they're outside your body.
You can donate them, which I'm gonna do. So if I don't use the 5, I'll donate them.
Yeah.
If I use 1, I'll donate 4 for 100% for sure, because I know, you know. Yeah, oh no, 100%. Yeah, that's definitely.
And how would you feel about that if, say, for instance, in 2 years' time, you're engaged to, like, you know, you're going to go ahead with this, you're going to take one of the eggs and you're going to go for it, and it works, and then you have the other 4 eggs. How would you feel about, like, if, say, those 4 eggs went off to somebody and they were all successful pregnancies? How would you feel about having your little kid floating around?
I think they don't give them out in Ireland because, look, I don't know actually much at all about donating the eggs, but I know the sperm, if you go with them, the sperm you get is from a different country.
Right,
okay. That man can only have basically one child or set of children with one person.
Right.
In Ireland.
Oh, so you couldn't have a baby with, say, Dave's sperm and then be like, that actually, I loved that.
No, you can. So you can.
I want Dave's sperm.
You can actually buy Dave's sperm. So if you choose Dave, you can make your embryo with Dave's sperm, and you can buy the rest of Dave's sperm and put it in the freezer with your eggs. That if you want to have another baby with Dave's sperm, but Jen can't use Dave's sperm. Nobody else in Ireland.
It's
can
the
use
same
Dave's
parents.
Oh, okay.
So like,
so Dave can't have Jen pregnant and Aimee pregnant and Karla pregnant.
So then our kids can't run into each other and get married, like essentially.
Yeah. So Dave,
that kind of thing.
Dave, then his sperm might go to somebody in Great Britain or France or wherever, but it won't go
still
to
a bit
anybody else
risky.
in Ireland.
Still, yeah, they could still run into each
Holiday
other.
romance.
The kids, like.
Yeah. So they're.
Don't know about that.
So that's kind of what I took from it. But again, don't quote me on all of those things like the egg donation and stuff.
This was more experience. Like
this was more
experience.
and that's all that this is. This was my kind of story, what happened with
personal experience.
Yes, yeah. And then they say that you should feel better after your first period, which came a week earlier than it would have. Maybe
you probably might be a bit regular now especially with all the hormones you had in you.
Yeah, like I hope not. I know, because it took years, I felt, to get that regular period going, and that was a consideration. Like, I did talk to the gynecologist about how would these hormones encourage the fibroids to grow back, and she said yes, but you have to weigh it up. So my gynecologist was really sound. She had nothing to do with this, but she was really sound, and she did say eggs by nature are quite fragile. So you see those 5 eggs, they're very fragile. They're way stronger in an embryo.
You are born with the eggs that you're going to have for the rest of your life. Like, that's your number.
Yeah, I know.
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah.
That's your number.
It's crazy.
Like, they... So
He was like, anyway, cool, move.
Listen, I'm not going to pretend that I know what I'm talking about. They're somewhere. And then when you're ovulating, few of them come out. But you can't make more.
Oh, you can't produce. Oh, so it's like, that's it.
No, they pop out of the ovary. Like,
okay. But they're all there.
Yeah. Like, that book is written. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
You can't go on a better diet or have a better lifestyle to make that number more.
They did say have protein, and I think I had carbs for 2 weeks solid,
which was not a problem for you.
No, which wasn't a problem for me.
I don't think it would be a problem for fucking anyone.
Which wasn't what I was supposed to do, but the thoughts of having, like, you literally do feel a little bit. I was like, is this how it feels to feel pregnant? When the last few days of the bloatedness started so low. Everything was so low. Yeah. I was like,
just the carbs, probably
the carbs. You're right, actually.
Yeah, it was probably just
all the curries,
curries and the carbs.
All the curries.
So that's the thing: embryos versus eggs.
Yeah, embryos are definitely stronger.
Yeah, I've heard that. So that was kind of one of the things, but they are more expensive.
Well, you need. Oh yeah, for sure, because that's IVF.
Yeah,
essentially, and then
but it's just frozen.
Stuff. But that's like more. Like, mine is probably step 1, embryos is probably step 2, and then transferring. Again, I don't know. Don't quote me, but no.
So when it comes to, this is one of the things that I haven't asked you, but this is one of the, you okay? You look
Yeah.
like you're panting.
No, I'm just time for a drink.
When it comes to thawing the eggs,
Yeah.
defreezing, do they go one by one? Because I know not all the eggs will survive the
I
thawing
presume
process.
they do. I don't know, but that's why, you know, even with 5.
Yeah, you're still not guaranteed the 5.
No.
It must be such a controlled, and I mean they've done it for years.
Yeah,
now, so
yeah,
they obviously have their own process or whatever. Sorry, Amy's just banging our bottle of water off the mic. She's panicked here. She's like, oh, every noise she makes is kill. It must be like so. I can't imagine the emotions a potential mother goes through, waiting for those phone calls. And
It's hard because you see how shit I felt. Then they would have done on that day, if you're waiting for your embryo transfer, they would have basically taken out the frozen eggs, as far as I know, mixed it with the sperm, put it back into you, and then you've like this 2-week wait where you just don't know. Like, definitely gave me a whole new insight on like a massive, like even more respect, you know, for the struggle that people go through, you know, to get pregnant. And then I've heard of people who have a healthy kid, who want another kid and are doing this 4, 5, 6 times. And I before would be like, why? Just you've a healthy kid now, why are you kind of pushing it? But you can understand, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's massive. You have to be compassionate that other people, you know, and like that. I did it for my freedom in the future. You know, you can have a baby till you're 40, 41, 42 if you're healthy.
Yeah.
Through this process.
How do you feel so much better now? Because I know even when I was 30, and I got pregnant when I was 31, had Bobby when I was 32. But even when I was 30, I was like, fuck, I better start having kids.
Yeah, I did. And you know what? I felt better knowing that I had a really high egg count. I am quite fertile. Like, so one person along the way said you're about 75% fertile. One of the medical people, which is massive for being 34. When I was 26, I was told, oh, you better get on. Like, obviously by somebody uneducated, just their opinion. Yeah. But, you know, and then going through fibroids and stuff like that, and being told maybe if this goes wrong, or and being on so much, like having all those drugs before the fibroid operations, having the coil, having the pill, like it's a lot's gone on that is all focused on your eggs and suppressing all those hormones and stuff that for me I was happy with that. You know?
Yeah, so I think we're told so many things along the years about like what's healthy, what's unhealthy, what's, you know, good if you want to have kids. You know, you need to get off contraception, you need to do a break, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And I also think that we were told how easy it will be to be pregnant, and then all of a sudden told how difficult it will be to get pregnant. It's like this constant.
Spent ages trying not to get pregnant, and everybody's focus was like, and it was kind of half a like, oh, on the pill, you know, blah, 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 try not to get pregnant. And then all of a sudden it's like, the conversation changes after a certain point.
Well, I mean, it's definitely in the last 20 years, and it's becoming so much more. I don't know whether it's more prominent or whether it's just being talked about more, or is it because of what we're eating? Is it because of the type of contraceptive? Like, I've noticed a big shift in and it could be down to drug pharma, big pharma, whatever, but the type of contraceptive pills that are being prescribed now are completely different from 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Like, your 28-day pill is your one, but that's the one that makes you feel fucking flat. Whereas a couple of years ago, it was your Yasmins, and everybody was going around to light with their big boobs and, you know, all this sort of stuff. But
I felt great. I was on Yasmin for years and I felt great.
Yeah, exactly. But now it could be down to whatever fucking what they're shilling. You know, you never know what's going on in all these companies with reps and stuff like that. Watch the movie Love and Other Drugs just to understand that. But it could be down to the research of like how much more prominent things like this, like fertility struggles are. And I do think, it could be, and I don't know, and if any teachers out there know, let us know. But is this being taught with their sex education these days? Do you know what I mean?
Well, they barely get sex education.
They barely
in Ireland,
get it
so
as it is. I presume it's like progressed since, but I wonder, is any of this sort of stuff covered? Do you know?
Yeah. I think, there is that big shift, isn't it? Where it was like we were told all the time to be so careful, not get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, well, you better start coming off contraception.
That's it. Yeah.
And
And then people, as soon as they're married, it's like, so
When's the baby?
Yeah.
Or like you can't even
you
move
can't
into
do
a gaff.
anything. Yeah.
Like I'm buying a house at the moment. It's like, I'm gonna be a new baby soon. Is that? A new baby soon. I'm just like, shut the fuck
I know,
up,
and
Claudia.
that's one thing I think as well. You just don't know with people what their situation is. So, like, not trying to be too PC all the time, but you just can't ask people anymore.
No,
or
I
put
think
that on people.
common
it's
sense.
fair.
It's not even PC. It's common sense. Like, we know too much now. Like, we've been made aware. Do you know, there's so much out there, and it's not as if you have to go looking for it. There is so much out there, and the awareness is like, it's always good to get more, but it's fucking out there.
Yeah.
Do you know?
And like, that's going back to like one of my first points on it. A lot of people be like, geez, she's 34, she's nearly 35. Oh my God, and she hasn't met somebody. Oh, shocking. Like, just Bridget Jones.
Yeah. I cannot believe they've lowered the age to geriatric mothers to 35.
Yeah, we must.
Bollocks.
So that's come backwards then.
Yeah, that has. Yeah. And look, there's probably reasons that we're all not like aware of for that. And it's just to do with medical classification. But at the same time, like, look at fucking BMI, which doesn't actually mean anything and should be binned, but we're still banging around being like, what's the BMI? I think, like, getting back to that conversation, first of all, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
and
thanks a
like
million.
actually having because it's a little bit taboo. But not only that, like, I am on the total opposite end of the spectrum for you, but it was something that really made me think, maybe I will change my mind, and I don't want it to be too late if I do.
Like you said when we talked about cost, I think nobody's in the same position, but I think if you're in a position where you are spending a lot of money on nights out, if you're spending a lot of money on bits
Holidays
and pieces,
and
go get the test done. That's what I say to all my friends. The first 300, go get it done, because then you know where you're at. So you could be like me, like I thought my number was going to be lower than it had been the few years before, but then being on the contraceptive is what made it lower. So then I knew, so I probably could have waited a year or two, but at that stage it was kind of in my mind and in my budget at this time before I went and spent all that money and probably crap, like, or you know what I mean, like,
instead of like going on a holiday, you said this is what I'm going to do.
And then so that's what I would say to people: have a look at it, get that blood test done. I've said it to a good few of my friends who have booked in and stuff like that, and just see where you're at if you're in your 30s. You know, if you have that money, you know, to or save it up.
that you can do it.
But keep looking at me. If you have that money,
You got that
Karla,
money?
do you have that money?
Test.
I'll book you in.
Do you have that money, Karla, for me now? I'll just book you in.
Gonna go out to Dundrum on Saturday.
Go and get you booked in. Go, woman.
We're just going to do a sunbed.
Drop Jen at the sun and bring Karla's
Bring her to the
Get
fertility
you on the
clinic.
way back. I'll get you both an ice cream.
Aimee, thanks a million
problem.
for coming on. It's great. And I do know, like, if you're thinking about getting this done, I know there's a lot of information online anywhere that you can look up. I think Therapy are doing the same thing now.
Are they?
Yeah. Joanne
Very good.
McNally are doing... Joanne McNally
She's doing
is
a gig with them.
She's doing a gig. She's getting paid sponsorship now.
Good for her.
Well, I
She's-
found Reaper Med great, and I know now I'm the third person
Yeah.
within close range of myself that have gone with them, and they're brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting paid.
Well, there you go, Reaper Bermed. But it's just Joanne McNally's page. She's brand ambassador for them now. She's doing it with them, and obviously Therapy are fucking everywhere. So if you wanted to try it with
Don't
them,
have to go and get some bed on the...
yeah, you can stay on the north side. You know yourself. No, thanks for
Keep it
Aimee.
safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't be going on the south side. You get lost.
Will you name a baby after me?
No.
You're dead, right?
That was
Aimee?
rude. That was a bit too quick.
Maybe I'll call it something K. Maybe it could be
Special
K.
K.
Special K. Special K.
Special K. Yeah, look, I think bottom line is there's many different ways nowadays.
Yes.
You can do things on your own, but again, as you said, it isn't like, I think people automatically think, oh, you got your eggs frozen, go on it alone. You're like, no. Maybe not. Maybe so.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but
yeah.
maybe it will work out better.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Better to be looking at them than
Yeah.
looking for them.
looking for the eggs, you know yourself. But I think the number one thing is we kind of have to get to a place where we stop thinking that it's our fucking business.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you know,
and
we...
also don't be, if you go do it, fair play to you.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's not like-
shout it from the rooftops. It's not
Yeah.
a shameful thing.
No.
Like,
Not that I've told everybody, but there's nobody that I've kept it from either
No.
because I'm just like, this
Why
is
is
it
it?
now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
this is my life now.
Yeah.
What
And
I'm
it's
doing.
on a podcast now to
Yeah.
47,000 people. So
yeah. But this is I think it's like, I think it's important to have these types of conversations rather than so when you have a baby,
yeah.
what do you think of kids? It's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, I personally don't want to continuously have a conversation as to why I don't really want them.
Sure,
I can't imagine.
Like, and you see that as well. You have like totally going backwards. But I remember at one stage after the fibroids thing, being like, Karla, will you have a child for me? Will you?
And I said,
Like,
yeah,
because I was like, if they cut my womb and I can't have a child,
I'd have a kid for you. No
yeah,
bother.
do you know? So it's kind
I
of.
was thinking that the other day. I'd love to be a surrogate for someone.
Really, you you flew pregnancy though.
Flew it.
Flew it, yeah. And it's funny how some people just absolutely fucking fly pregnancy. But yeah, that was a conversation that we had a couple of times where I was like, yeah, if it comes to it, of course. But
Yeah, I couldn't do that now because I would get very attached to.
yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
For me, I'm probably the perfect. I'd be like, off
Yeah,
you
but
go.
Grant.
Yeah.
That's grand.
But I can't believe I'm not allowed to drink for 9 fucking months now.
Yeah.
No,
It
but-
is a big, like, so if you're a bit, I'm a bit of a hermit, so I don't really mind.
Yeah, you were the dreamboat
Yeah.
circus. You were really
Yeah.
me, not so much. They might be a bit like, what are you doing? I'd be
What
like,
are you
anyway.
doing now? Why are you eating them spices? You could go into early labour. Cop the fuck on.
Yeah, I'd be
Jesus
like-
Christ.
But I was mad bad at my choice.
Yeah. yeah. That's you. Thanks a million, Aimee, again
No
for
problem.
coming on and talking about your experience. We hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, you can get in touch with us via Insta. I'll leave all the links down below. If you want to follow us on Patreon, the link for that will be there as well. For anybody who's listening who came to the show, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed, and we will see you on Instagram, and we'll chat to you next week. Bye.